This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
World leaders to discuss efforts to protect nature as the UN's Biodiversity Conference opens in China. The US and Britain warn of security threats targeting a luxury hotel in Kabul. And migrants in Libya protest against mass arrests. Hello and welcome. You're watching Africa Live. We're coming to you live from Nairobi. I'm Hannah Viviers. Here are more stories making headlines this hour. In business, tanker drivers at the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation suspend their strike. And in sport, Nigeria beats Central African Republic to avenge shock defeat and return 2022 World Cup qualifying campaign back on track. Well, the world's largest biodiversity conference in a decade has opened in China today. The city of Kunming is hosting the United Nations COP15 meeting. World leaders are to discuss solutions to better protect nature. The Chinese president is due to speak via video during a leader summit tomorrow. Well, this year's conference revolves around the theme of ecological civilization, which is a key Chinese policy. Here are more details of the meeting.
Known as the Kingdom of Animals and Plants, China's Yunnan is gearing up for the world's biggest biodiversity conference in a decade. It's the 15th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the UN Convention on Biological Diversity. The first part of the gathering will last from Monday to Friday, both online and offline. The theme is ecological civilization, building a shared future for all life on Earth. Yunnan province offers a window into China's biodiversity. Although it only takes about 4% of the country's land area, the province is home to more than half of the species found in China. The meeting aims to draw a blueprint for biodiversity conservation. A declaration is expected to call for better protection of species and organisms and sustainable development. The second session will be an in-person event scheduled for next April and May, also in Kunming. It has been nearly 3 decades since the UN Convention on Biological Diversity took effect in 1993. With more than 150 signatures, the treaty has 3 main objectives: the conservation of biological diversity, the sustainable use of biological diversity components, and to fairly share genetic resources. Officials say the gathering will provide a great opportunity for the international community to explore actions to achieve these goals. Around the world, biodiversity is now being destroyed at an alarming rate. Experts estimate that dozens of species are disappearing every day. And some say it's become more important than ever to work together and build a shared future for all life on Earth.
Well, in Africa, climate change is reported to be affecting the habitats of several species. The World Meteorological Organization describes the continent as being exceptionally vulnerable to crises associated with climate change, including food insecurity. CGTN's Daniel Arab-Moy reports.
Climate change is an existential crisis for the entire world, yet poor countries are particularly vulnerable.
My country and the parts of Southern African region continue to experience the devastating impacts of climate change.
Our actions today determine the future of our planet in terms of climate change.
Uganda, just like most countries, continues to experience biodiversity loss to the extent that some wildlife and other living species are now in danger of extinction.
Africa is one of the most vulnerable regions in the world to climate change. The limitations of many African countries to adapt has caused untold suffering, and yet many African economies rely heavily on agriculture for survival. According to the World Bank, agriculture contributes approximately 24% of Africa's gross domestic product. The World Bank projects that agriculture and agribusiness in Africa will grow to become a $1 trillion industry by 2030. But extreme weather conditions are reducing crop yields by the day. Now, major cereal crops grown across the continent are being reduced. In West Africa's Sahel region, for example, climate change-induced conflict has driven hundreds into hunger. In the Horn of Africa, below-average rainfall has resulted in crop failure. The continent's biodiversity, which is an important resource for people, has also been adversely affected. Now, forests are home to most of the world's terrestrial biodiversity, covering 31% of the global land area. Now, 93% are natural, and they provide water, livelihoods, and mitigate climate change. They are also essential for sustainable food production, yet deforestation continues at alarming rates. According to the Global Forest Goals Report 2021, 10 million hectares are lost annually. Nearly 20% of the African continent is covered by forests, including the world's second largest tropical rainforest, the Congo Basin Forest. Now, Africa's elephants also play a key role in the ecosystem, but they also face threats of extinction. Now, latest statistics by the International Union for Conservation of Nature highlights a broad-scale decline in African elephant numbers. The number of African forest elephants is reported to have fallen by 86% over a period of 31 years. The population of African savanna elephants decreased by 60% over the last 50 years. As human population rise and cities grow, settlements are also destroying rhino habitats. Now, cyclones Idai and Kenneth, which struck southern Africa in 2019, underscored Africa's exposure to climate change. Now, climate change experts say restoring our forest cover could be the single largest nature-based opportunity for climate mitigation.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, the world's largest biodiversity conference in a decade has opened in China today. And for more on that, Tian Wei joins us from Kunming. Tian Wei, thank you so much for joining us. Just tell us about what the latest is from this meeting.
Well, this is already the opening ceremony. I'm standing here right now at the media center as I'm surrounded by journalists from different parts of China and even the world talking about their latest assignment. You can see that at the opening ceremony, which you put earlier, the most important task is to not only to reflect back on the progress being made, but rather realize that there has been no breakthrough in terms of protection of biodiversity worldwide. So what they need now, the delegates from all over the world, they're making their speeches, but beside these speeches, they need to be determined to bring up ambitious and inclusive goals, and even more importantly, actions and results. And on that, there are going to be two parts of the conference for COP15. One is being underway this week in Kunming, China's spring city, well known for its mild weather and also beautiful natural sceneries. The other is going to be coming April, hopefully, with people from all over the world that could be meeting in person to discuss the goals for the 2030 and even beyond to the 2050. We can see behind me some of the images of some of the most beloved animals and species here native to Yunnan, particularly the elephant. I know that in Africa there are a lot of stories of beautiful elephants. Here in Yunnan as well, there were 17 elephants. They were on the move, migrating just a few months ago, and all over China and all over the world, people are following their stories. It certainly shows this beautiful natural bond that we have as human beings with nature, and we want that story to be reflected and exemplified to other species as well. As you may know very well, giant panda is another encouraging case study. It is already graduating from the endangered species to more, in a way, in nature now already with conservation work for decades. 1,800 giant panda with their beautiful images are in the wild. So we hope, just as many of our friends in Africa as well, we hope these stories will be exemplified. We hope these stories will also be heard from other parts of China and other parts of the world, hopefully with the COP15. Back to you.
Thank you so much for all that. Tian Wei speaking to us from Kunming, where COP15 is to be held. Where environmentalists keeping track of African penguin populations say numbers of the birds, which is native to South Africa and Namibia, are dwindling. And the following report, Astatal, unpacks how the South African government is addressing the issue.
African penguins are native to South Africa and Namibia. Their numbers are dropping due to a number of factors, including commercial fishing taking place in their habitats. To tackle this issue, the South African government is planning to restrict fishing around their colonies.
There are a multitude of factors, multidimensional, affecting marine ecosystems, and we have to look at how do we manage all of this accumulated and aggregated impact. Ecosystems are impacted from a range of issues, and these affect lower parts of the food web, the plankton, the prey species. They then affect the mid part of the food system, the smaller fish and the larger fish, and ultimately these impact on the top predators like penguins, the larger fish like sharks, or even whale stocks.
Pierre de Villiers is working with local communities at the Stony Point penguin colony to help them find alternative sources of income.
We have a restaurant that has been set up now in partnership with the community. There's a community trust. The community manages the restaurant. And where their customers come from, in actual fact, which is quite exciting, are all the different visitors to South Africa and to the Western Cape and Cape Town specifically, who come and visit the penguin colony at Stony Point. What's nice about the birds is it's a colony where people can go and visit.
South Africa's Ministry of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment has established several biodiversity working groups. Experts in the group held discussions with various stakeholders in an effort to strike a balance between conserving the African penguin population while addressing concerns about the impact of restrictions on the livelihood of fishermen.
We want to give commercial activity the best chance to bounce back. The South African government, like other governments, has a core policy of sustainable utilization. As human beings, we have to use what's around us to survive. Air, water, food resources, agriculture, fish wild caught and fish farmed.
While the plans to restrict fishing around penguin colonies are yet to be implemented, the drop in the African penguin population remains a pressing issue. In the past 30 years alone, South Africa has lost 73% of its penguin population. Astatal, CGTN.
Well, Chinese officials are urging India to abide by agreements regarding their shared border after no progress was made in the talks over the border. China and India held their latest talks on Sunday to address a military standoff in eastern Ladakh, where fighting has erupted between the two sides in recent years. India said it provided constructive suggestions, but China was not agreeable. A Chinese military spokesperson says China has eased border tensions despite what he calls New Delhi's unreasonable and unrealistic requests. The foreign ministry has also made a statement.
China remains determined to safeguard national sovereignty. That is firm and unwavering. We hope that India will not misjudge the situation, cherish the hard-won results at the China-India border, and abide by the relevant agreements and consensus between the two countries and their military forces.
The United States and Britain have issued a security warning regarding a hotel in Kabul, urging their nationals to stay away from luxury hotel Serena. The alert came as talks wrapped up in Doha between the U.S. and the Taliban. It was their first meeting since the American troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. Security and human rights were among the issues the two sides discussed. Washington described the meeting as candid and professional. Reporting from Doha, here's Lizima Gomez.
Senior Taliban representatives have said that they have had positive discussions with US and they have begun meeting with the European Union representatives. According to Al Jazeera, the Americans aren't offering any details in the talks that concluded. Earlier, US officials had said that the meeting with the Taliban representatives was not about granting recognition or conferring legitimacy to the Taliban. However, the Taliban is hopeful that the talks pave a way for recognition of the Afghan government, not only by the United States, but the international community as well. According to Al Jazeera, the Afghan delegation led by Afghan Acting Foreign Minister Mullah Amir Khan Muttaqi also came to Doha seeking financial assistance that comes with any sort of international recognition. The highlights of the meeting seem to have been humanitarian aid, implementation of the 2020 agreement between America and Taliban, as well as terrorism. Mutaki further informed that the delegation asked the US to lift its ban on the reserve of Afghanistan's central bank. The US had earlier stated that they would press the Taliban to ensure that Afghanistan does not become a base for terrorist attacks, and their priority would remain the continued safe departure of Afghans, US citizens, and other foreign nationals. Adding that another goal was to urge the Taliban to respect the rights of all Afghans, including women. The delegation of the Islamic Emirates of Afghan also met with the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Qatar, Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani, where the two discussed economic projects in Afghanistan and other issues.
Let's time now for us to take a short break. More in Africa Live when we return, including migrants in Libya protest mass arrests.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
I've been Tunis, Cairo, Juba, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. You're watching Africa Live. We head over to Tunisia now, where the president, Kais Saied, has named a new government. This comes just 11 weeks after Saied ousted the prime minister and suspended parliament. The appointment of a government has long been demanded by both domestic political players and foreign donors. It also comes along with a clear declaration by President Saied of a timeline to exit the country's political crisis. Prime Minister Najla Bouden says the new government's main priority will be to tackle corruption. Well, hundreds of migrants and refugees have camped outside a UN center in Tripoli trying to seek help to escape Libya. Aid groups say the migrants were arrested over the weekend in a violent crackdown in which several of them were shot. CGTN's Enoch Sekolia has the details.
Armed forces in Tripoli began a series of mass arrests a week ago. Over 5,000 people have been detained in overcrowded detention centers in Tripoli. The situation has led aid and rights groups to voice their concerns. Many of the people are waiting outside the United Nations Center in Tripoli, hoping to get the necessary help to get out of Libya.
I want to leave Libya. I want them to evacuate us from Libya. This is what I want. We are tired, we have no food and no shelter.
Libya has become a major transit point for people seeking to reach Europe in search of a better life. But the migrants here say they have faced violent abuse and extortion while trying to pursue their European dream.
We are not guilty of anything except migrating from our country and coming here on the basis that there is a Human Rights Commission and that we will be resettled to other countries.
Libya's government of national unity says it is dealing with a challenging problem. Meanwhile, the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, says it is trying to help people waiting at the center and is ready to assist with humanitarian flights out of Libya. Enoch Sekolia, CGTN.
Well, hundreds of young people from African civil society met with French President Emmanuel Macron in the southern city of Montpellier at an unprecedented Africa-France summit aimed at rebuilding the country's relationship with the continent. No African heads of state were invited to the event, a move that sparked reaction within the African political class and population.
In Senegal, Mali, Cameroon, and Guinea-Conakry,
Reactions were immediate after the exclusion of African heads of state from the Africa-France summit initiated by President Emmanuel Macron.
I think the French president has disowned the African leaders by not inviting them to this summit. I think he understood that more and more African heads of state have legality but not popular legitimacy, even though they represent the people. Macron realized this, and that's why he preferred to talk directly with young Africans.
The friction between France and several countries and the bitter criticism of the French president in many African countries is fueling a great sense of anti-French malaise among African youth. So I believe that it is a set of factors that make it that the heads of state and diplomats who can no longer manage their youth properly were not invited by President Emmanuel Macron.
I think that France has realized that there are huge changes in Africa. The first change is the conquest of Africa by other great powers. Then there are the many tensions that arise in relations between France and certain African countries, which result in disagreements, particularly on security issues. Furthermore, I also believe that France is anticipating the future because it has understood that Africa will be the new economic frontier.
For African observers, African countries should not expect anything from this summit because France will always privilege its interest to the detriment of the African people.
I think that Africans should expect a simple manipulation of France because it only defends its interests. It does not invest enough in Africa. For example, China has invested more than $125 million in Africa and has even promised another $60 billion, while France has only invested $1.8 billion. France has a very bad policy in Africa. France supports coups in some countries and condemns them in others. It even supports the multiplication of presidential mandates in Africa. France supports African heads of state to hold on power.
France cannot present itself as a defender of democracy in Africa when it operates the lever for anti-democratic successions at the head of our states. It validates a coup d'etat in Chad and refuses it in other states. This is a double discourse from France that we do not understand. I think that Emmanuel Macron simply wants to show himself to African youth who are open to French politics and who are the bearers of a new discourse.
Friday's summit comes at a time when France's influence over its former colonies is increasingly contested, particularly by Russia. And while Paris is in open crisis with Mali and Algeria, for some political analysts, this could mean that France is simply losing its former colonies to other great powers. Désiré Canon, CGTN, Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire.
Well, many young people in Africa consider agriculture to be a profession for the elderly. Despite having a median age of 19 years, the average farmer's age on the continent is 60. For one group of young farmers in Tanzania, agriculture is a viable and rewarding employment option that they're trying to make attractive to other young people. CGTN's Isaac Lucando brings us that report.
For the past 2 years, the Kibamba Young Agripreneurs Group has been farming on a 3-acre plot in Dar es Salaam. Consisting of 7 members in their 20s and 30s, the group believes there is money to be made in agriculture. Group member Amos Benjamin says studying an advanced agricultural degree in China convinced him that he was on the right career path.
When I was in China, I saw how agriculture has helped the country transform, carrying out development activities as a result of farming. So I said to myself, on my return home, I would engage in agriculture based on what I saw there.
The group mostly grows horticultural crops and keeps livestock. Its leader says most young people are put off from farming because they deem it a laborious activity.
We must shift from ordinary farming to farming that makes use of technology. Technology reduces costs and make farming very attractive to young people. At the moment, all African countries, including Tanzania, are being fed by old people.
Agriculture remains unattractive to young people who, according to the World Bank, are 60% of Africa's unemployed. Many of them move to urban areas and have little or no interest in taking up agriculture as a source of income.
According to the United Nations, Africa has the youngest population in the world, with 70% of sub-Saharan Africa under the age of 30. Meeting the continent's present and future food needs heavily depends on young people driving agriculture in Africa.
Almost 2/3 of Tanzania's population is engaged in agriculture, but the sector only contributes 26.7% to the country's economy. Some in the sector argue more needs to be done to prioritize agriculture.
Sectors that contribute the most to the country's economy do not have a multiplier effect. They simply do not have the ability to employ many young people. It is only agriculture. If you say 80% of the country are farmers, then agriculture should be given first priority.
At the moment, the group sells its produce to customers close to their farm and provides mentorship to aspiring farmers. The group envisions one day franchising farms across Tanzania, enabling them to share their know-how while providing young people with a viable source of income. Isaac Lukando, CGTN, Dar es Salaam.
Well, in the world of social media, the recent outage of services on Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp affected communication and businesses across the globe. And as CGTN's Nick Mudimba now reports, the lessons learned were immense, even as the social media evolution continues to take root across the world.
The recent social media outage, that is Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, caused panic among so many users in the world. So many people are now inclining towards selling their businesses on social media.
The blackout lasted nearly 5 hours and the most frequent users felt the heat. Brand influencers and social media enthusiasts were left worried as they eagerly waited for the platforms to function again.
I think it was just a wake-up call for me. It was a wake-up call for me, but I can't imagine life without social media. I just can't imagine life without Instagram, because personally I eat social media, I drink social media, I pay my rent social media. Apparently for me it was because we normally have like posting days. Personally I have like Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. So luckily it was not my day like I needed to post. And also it happened at night. And normally we post during the day, yeah. So if it was during the day, I think, I don't know what I would have explained to my clients.
Experts in information technology and networking have called on African developers to come up with home-developed solutions to increase online productivity in the fast-paced digital evolution.
From the outage, what we really need to come up with is something that acts similar. Facebook has shown us the way, because even them, they have challenges. From the outage, it told us that eventually their availability was affected.
Down Detector, a service that relies on reports from users to determine whether websites are having problems, showed that all of Facebook, its main products, Instagram, WhatsApp and Messenger, suffered downtime. According to the site, 10.6 million problems were reported around the world. However, more than 3.5 billion people use the platforms. Majority of those who lived in the age where social media wasn't active are blaming the evolution for eroding human interaction.
If I compare our previous lives with the current one, our lives used to be good. We used to go visit our grandparents. They tell us folk tales, we go to the rivers, we were playful, but these days you see kids just sit in the house with remote controls and phones. We had a quality life as kids compared to the current kids.
According to Down Detector, on Friday the site went down again for 2 hours but was quickly restored.
But this time around, according to Facebook, they say that they've bolstered their systems and this won't be happening again soon. Nick Mudimba, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
Today's business news coming up after the short break, including tanker drivers at the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation suspend their strike.
Taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Over the last 14 hours of rain.
There's more to this place than just glorious landscapes. There's more to it than just, say, Table Mountain or glorious, endless salt flats. There's more to it than countries that are home to some of the deepest mines in the world. There is so much more to this place, even if it is home to some of the finest diamonds on the planet. It is the sheer diversity of the people who call Southern Africa home and the relentless drive to make it a better place that make it so special. And we know that because this too is home. No one knows Southern Africa like we do. CGTN, see the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Time now for the business news. Tanker drivers at the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation have suspended their strike. The nationwide strike was set to start on Monday. Their union says they will give negotiations a chance. The drivers are protesting against the poor state of roads in the country. The National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers says that the roads were putting the lives of tanker drivers in danger. The union is now aiming to begin negotiations after the state-owned firm warned a strike could disrupt fuel supplies. Staying in Nigeria, logistics services are an integral part of e-commerce in Nigeria, with motorcycles playing a vital role in driving its success. But some of the riders have been blamed for reckless driving and sometimes even abandoning customers' products. To counter this problem, a new app that seeks to sanitize the local delivery services in Africa's biggest economy has been introduced. With that report, here's CGTN's Philia Haza.
Grocery store employee Joyce Chinweta uses logistics services to deliver her goods to customers across Abuja. But Joyce says she has not had a pleasant experience with many of them so far.
I've been using a lot of dispatch riders lately, and some of them, and I've discovered a lot of issues with them. Most of them, they drive rough, having accidents on the road, and then some of them, they even run away with parcels. Customers will call and they are complaining. And then they deliver late. Some of them deliver late, making me have issues with customers.
Most deliveries in Nigeria are done by motorcycles, and there have been lots of reports of reckless riding. In the past 8 years alone, more than 41,000 people have died in road accidents. The majority of those have been caused by reckless motorcycle and car driving, according to the Federal Road Safety Commission and Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. It's part of the problem Nigerian tech expert Olarinde Owoniyi and his team are trying to solve. They have come up with an application called Vismo that helps people hail a verified logistics company and also track their products while in transit.
Vismo allows you to do real-time tracking of your order. Upon pickup, you can track your parcel from point A to point B and get a confirmation via SMS, via email on the delivery. Now, the unique thing about Vismo is also we've done profiling of the riders before they are brought on board the platform. So not just any rider handles your parcel. The riders are profiled and there's security of service being provided to you via Vismo. So it's an easy-to-use platform. It is fast, it is cost-efficient.
The team also says because there are many riders in one hub at one time, the search for a rider is easier and affordable, just like the Uber and Bolt services. However, there are some teething troubles affecting the likes of Vismo services.
ICT infrastructure is a major challenge. We look at the provision of internet service, reliable internet service. In this office, we are making use of 2 to 3 internet service providers because we have to be real-time. Vismo is real-time. You have the issues of the regulatory bodies, you have the issues of security, you have the issues of government just deciding that dispatch rider will stop because of security challenges in certain areas. Now, those are the dynamics and the challenges within the industry.
And that's something the government says it's working on.
In August, the government, in collaboration with the African Development Bank, agreed to support micro, small and medium-scale enterprises, especially technology-based ones, with $500 million, while increasing its efforts to boost infrastructure across the country.
Authorities have also promised to beef up security in several parts of the country and create a more welcoming environment for startup companies. The hope is that with such support, more users like Joyce can benefit from this new technology across Nigeria. Phil Ihaza, CGTN, Abuja.
Sudan's capital is experiencing shortages of essential supplies and commodities due to ongoing protests. Fuel and cooking gas queues have been growing in the city due to a blockade of the main port by protesters. Many bakeries have also stopped working amid disruptions to the supply of wheat. CGTN's Naba Muhyiddin reports from Khartoum.
Public anger is growing in Khartoum as fuel, wheat and medicines run short. It's caused by a port blockade in the east of Sudan, where roads have been blocked by demonstrators, stopping the flow of goods between Port Sudan and Khartoum. The local airport of Port Sudan City is closed too. The protest started 2 weeks ago, when the tribe leaders said they want solutions to poor economic conditions in the Red Sea region. The eastern tribes also rejected the peace deal signed with rebel groups after the ouster of Omar al-Bashir and demanded a political representation in the transitional period. The Port of Sudan is the main gateway for imports and exports. It's also vital for oil exports from the neighboring South Sudan. The transitional government is negotiating the reopening of the main port, while the protesting tribes are still rejecting any mediations. Naba Muhyiddin, CGTN, Khartoum, Sudan.
In California, it's been over a week since a massive oil spill off the coast. Cleanup crews are racing to work along the 21-kilometer leak. The cause is not yet confirmed, but it does turn a spotlight on safety regulations. Adis Tiansin reports.
Cleanup efforts are still underway a week after a ruptured underwater oil pipeline leaked over 600,000 liters of crude oil on the shores of Southern California. Investigators are still focusing on the possibility of an anchor from a vessel rupturing the pipeline, but it's not clear whether it may have been the result of a single impact or a series of them going back many months.
We're aiming to get the section pipe with the fracture and then use the National Transportation Safety Board's laboratory, electron microscope, to do a real metallurgical survey and try to determine when it occurred, exactly how it occurred.
A surf school in Huntington Beach has filed a class action lawsuit against the operator of the oil pipeline, Amplify Energy Corporation. Their lawyers are asking why it took so long for the authorities to respond to the incident.
The monitoring systems in place, were they working? What kind of technology did they have? That's all going to come out in discovery, but they should know exactly when that happens. The failure to report it and the failure to notify and to respond, that's also really concerning.
The Orange County District Attorney's Office has launched a criminal investigation into Amplify Energy, whose CEO said the company will cooperate with the investigators. In recent years, pipeline safety regulations had been rolled back by the Trump administration. Regulators admit that inspections haven't kept up with technological advances and are also short-staffed, with only about 130 inspectors for the coasts of Alaska, California, Louisiana, and Texas. Some legislators are questioning the sustainability of offshore drilling.
When there's drilling, there will be spilling. I think we're going to be holding hearings, but I think the next step is we have to come up with a plan to not only stop new drilling, but to figure out how do we stop all drilling that's going on in California.
Easier said than done when California is the only major oil-producing state that doesn't impose tax on oil extractions and also receives tens of billions of dollars annually from oil and gas operations. Phasing out of offshore drilling and how to avoid oil spills could be discussed in years to come, but right now Southern California residents want to know who's responsible for the incident. It's been a week since an oil spill in Southern California led to the closure of several beaches and businesses while causing a significant loss of marine life along miles of this coastline. But there are still more questions than answers as to who exactly is responsible for this incident and why it took the authorities so long to respond. Residents here are demanding accountability. It is Tianshan, CGTN, Huntington Beach.
Activists are calling on the UK to ban single-use plastic cutlery. They're worried about the waste causing long-term harm to wildlife and to humans. Kitty Logan reports.
Food, only a few clicks away, a full meal or a special treat, delivered to the door within half an hour. But with takeaways can come plastic cutlery and plates. This delivery company has an opt-out to cut down on plastic waste, making a takeaway order more sustainable and almost guilt-free.
Someone who does it a bit.
But environmental campaigners say too many businesses still offer single-use plastic cutlery, and they're calling for a UK-wide ban.
You need individuals, you need businesses, and you need politics all coming together to make a real difference.
A change in the law would bring the UK into line with the European Union. EU member states banned several types of single-use plastics, including cutlery and plates, from July. But since Brexit, Britain no longer has to follow the same EU guidelines.
So what we're seeing now is that the UK is falling behind the rest of Europe. All across Europe there's legislation coming in, and what we've seen in the UK is being slow off the mark and slow on the uptake of this really important environmental legislation.
The sleepy market town of Stroud is home to several independent cafes. Most here have swapped out single-use plastics, dishing up takeaways in cardboard containers.
Of course, since the start of the pandemic, the trend for takeaways has really taken off. With that comes, naturally, disposable cutlery. But what campaigners would like us to do now is to think a lot more carefully about the type of cutlery we take away with us.
Even a busy Prime Minister is tempted by convenience. And many takeaways and pre-packaged meals are sold with plastic cutlery included, leaving the consumer with little choice. And perhaps little time for careful disposal. Many plastic waste items are littered, then washed away by rain, ending up in rivers and seas, causing long-term harm to wildlife and humans.
When the consumer does the right thing and puts items in their bin or in their recycling boxes, we know that these waste streams don't always end up where they should be. In fact, we think that as little as 9% of the plastic ever produced has been recycled.
The government says it is tackling the plastic problem with plans to improve recycling systems. A ban on some single-use plastics, such as straws and stirrers, is already in place. It's now launching a public consultation which could lead to that ultimate ban on plastic plates and cutlery too. Campaigners say a change in the law can't come soon enough to prevent further harm to the environment. Kitty Logan, CGTN, Stroud.
Some sport action after the break, including Nigeria beat Central African Republic to avenge shock defeat and return 2022 World Cup qualifying campaign back on track.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game. the greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Qanater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
We begin our sports coverage with Africa's race for the 2022 FIFA World Cup, which continued on Sunday. Nigeria responded to their home shocking defeat last Thursday to beat Central African Republic 2-0 in Douala, Cameroon, and go top of Group C. Defender Leon Balogun and Victor Osimhen scored in the first half to guide the Super Eagles to victory and take their tally to 9 points with 2 fixtures of the second round CAF 2022 World Cup qualifying left. Meanwhile, host Benin host Group J top spot to Tanzania after conceding a home 1-0 defeat, with both countries tied on 7 points. Tunisia stayed top in Group B despite being held to a barren stalemate by host Mauritania, who crashed out of the competition. Mali remained top of Group B by extending their tally to 10 points after beating Kenya 1-0 in Nairobi in a result that ended the Harambee Stars' dream of playing in Qatar 2022. When other Sunday results, Madagascar notched their first win in Group J after beating DR Congo 1-0. Uganda kept pace with Mali in Group E with a 1-0 win over Rwanda in Kampala. Cape Verde edged Liberia by the same score in Group C as Zambia, and Equatorial Guinea played to a 1-0 draw in Group B. Well, South Africa head coach Hugo Broos is confident that returning fans will lift his side as they aim to take a step closer to qualifying for the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Vaccinated fans are to be in attendance for their return Group G qualifier against Ethiopia on Tuesday at the FNB Stadium. It'll be the first time for Bafana to play in front of their fans since March of 2020. CGTN's Duplessis tells us more.
The Belgian former AFCON winner was upbeat as he addressed the media here at the Dobsonville Stadium in Soweto ahead of the crucial FIFA World Cup Group G qualifiers against Ethiopia. Bruce stressed the importance of the next 2 matches and the fact that returning fans would give his charges a lift in what is very much a must-win encounter on South African soil.
It's always, how can I say it, something that gives you more as a team, and certainly in bad moments. If then the crowd is there and they begin to shout and they begin to sing and they begin to support you, then you can do better things than you even thought that you could do. So the crowd is very important.
Captain Ronwen Williams was excited that fans would be returning to the stadium and hoped that his teammates would feel the energy from the supporters who have waited a very long time to watch their beloved Bafana in action.
We've missed them. You know, the game hasn't felt the same. Honestly speaking, it felt like a friendly game, you know, because you can hear everyone screaming, and it's been tough, you know, but being a professional, you've got to do what you've got to do, and we know what's at stake. So them coming back, you know, obviously they've missed us as well, they've missed sport, so they're going to come back with that excitement.
Hugo Bruce says he feels frustrated by the lack of cooperation from certain South African football clubs and the bizarre decision by a player not to honour his call-up. He acknowledges that dialogue is required to find a way to resolve the situation, but feels that it is something that will have to wait as his charges face a tricky trip away to Ethiopia before welcoming fans back to Soccer City for the first time in 18 months, where he is confident the table-topping Bafana can produce another winning display on home soil and take another step towards World Cup qualification. Sis Duplessis, CGTN, Soweto, South Africa.
In road running, Seifutura Abdiwak of Ethiopia and Ruth Chepngetich of Kenya took the honors on Sunday in the return of the Chicago Marathon. It had been cancelled last year due to the pandemic. Tura, who was placed 6th in the marathon in 2019, won the men's title in 2 hours, 6 minutes and 12 seconds after he, Galen Rupp of United States and Kenya's Eric Kiptanui broke away from a leading group of 7 runners late in the race. Chepngetich, the world champion, comfortably won the women's race, finishing in 2 hours, 22 minutes and 31 seconds. Emma Bates and Sarah Hall were a distant second and third for the United States. Around 35,000 amateur runners also competed in Sunday's event. Well, a new dawn beckons for the Kenya's curling enthusiasts after the sport was officially launched in the country early this month. The new federation is aiming to produce its first Olympians from the East African nation in the future. CGTN's Joy Kiruki has more.
Kenya is the newest member of the World Curling Federation, becoming the 67th affiliate and only the second African nation practicing the sport after Nigeria, who joined in 2018. The pioneering players could not hide their joy following the official launch of the sport in Nairobi.
People are so excited. We have been playing for an hour non-stop. Yeah, we are so excited. We are learning very fast, but at least we knew the rules, the points, like we knew the playing points. So when we got the equipment, it was just go, and people are doing so well.
The global pandemic has delayed preparations and the formal launch of the sport in the country for the past 2 years. Despite the hardships, the moment they all work for is one to cherish.
COVID has been our main challenge, I can attest, because we were supposed to go to an international tournament stroke training last year, December. But unfortunately, it was not possible because of the COVID situation globally.
To start something new is always exciting, but we are having a lot of challenges on the way. Sometimes you feel like you're giving up. Yeah, it's quite hard, especially the fact that we don't have the ice court, we didn't have the equipment. Actually, this is the first time we are actually playing. We've been always watching on YouTube, and then Lavender comes up with pop quizzes.
With the launch behind them, the players can now focus on writing a new chapter in the country's sporting history.
We've just started, so we need to pile some points. And being we are the second African country playing, so in our continent, we are 2 countries. So this now is going to be left to the World Curling Federation to decide. But now we need to assemble a team, send them anywhere, maybe in Japan, Canada, Australia, for training, or in Europe, for them to be able to train.
Naturally, Kenyans are athletes, and with minimal support, you will see this game grow very fast, and people will go to the Olympic, and you never know, we will bring medals here with this game.
The hurdle facing the newest Kenyan team is a lack of practice space due to the closure of the only ice rink in the country. However, with the country slowly opening up following the COVID-19 lockdown, the team hopes that the ice rink can resume business so that they can start proper training. Joy Kiruki Juma, CGTN.
Well, in motorsport, Nasser Al-Attiyah of Toyota Gazoo Racing continued his dominance of the cars category in the Rally of Morocco by winning the special Stage 2 in the desert sands of Zagora. The Qatari driver clocked 3 hours, 45 minutes, 16 seconds to claim a second consecutive stage victory and extend his race lead to over 10 minutes ahead of Saudi Arabia's Yassid Al-Raji, who finished second on the day. Al-Attiyah now holds a 10-minute, 18-second advantage over Al-Raji in the overall classification, with Argentina's Lucio Alvarez third, more than 32 minutes in arrears.
Yeah, it was good, but okay, it was the fight really very tight, before the last 120 kilometer. But okay, the last 120 we push. We did, I think, good navigation last 50 kilometer without any mistake. But it's not easy, because to open and to make the line. But it's good for us, because we learn, and we build good confidence,
Well, Well, France were crowned the winners of the UEFA Nations League for the first time following a come-from-behind 2-1 victory over Spain at the San Siro Stadium in Milan on Sunday night. Kylian Mbappe scored a controversial winner late on to decide the second edition of the European mini-tournament. The first half was relatively subdued, but both sides sparked to life after the break. In the 63rd minute, Karim Benzema sent a cross to Theo Hernandez, but his shot hit the underside of the bar. Spain responded in clinical fashion, taking the lead when Mikel Oyarzabal finished past Hugo Lloris, leaving the captain with no chance to react. The French response was swift, with Mbappe finding Benzema, who leveled with a brilliant curling shot after a minute later. Mbappe then scored the winner 10 minutes from the end, racing onto a through ball from Hernandez and stopping over to slot past Unai Simon. But Spain complained it should not have stood to no avail.
What's behind us stays behind us. The players prove that they are still performing at a high level. While can have some games in which we cannot manage from A to Z, and in September we drew 2 matches, but the balance was still positive. Now we had to face 2 really good European sides. Belgium are the best team, and then Spain here, and even if they were missing a few players, they can cause us problems. Now, the best vitamin is winning matches, and even better when there is a title at stake, so there was no loss of confidence.
What I know is that we were able to win against the European champions and play almost evenly against the world champions. So for the players and the team, that is good. Of course, every time for me, it will be more difficult to pick the team, and that is also good for me and for us. The important thing is that the team maintains its personality and will to win.
To South America, who are 2 goals before halftime. One of them, an unusually fortunate chip from Lionel Messi, helped Argentina to a comfortable 3-0 win over Uruguay in a 2022 World Cup qualifier. Argentina took the lead 8 minutes up to the break when Messi floated a 35-meter pass into the area, but it was missed by both advancing striker Nicolas Gonzalez and goalkeeper Fernando Muslera and ended up in the net. 6 minutes later, Lautaro Martinez swung in and missed a chance on the edge of the box, but the loose ball fell into the path of Rodrigo de Paul to double their lead. Martinez converted a low cross from de Paul for the third. Argentina won at 3-0 to extend their unbeaten run to 24 games and narrow the gap between them and leaders Brazil to 6 points, while Uruguay ended the day 4th in the 10-team table. The top 4 teams will qualify automatically for Qatar 2022. Well, that's it for this edition of Africa Live. Remember that you can send your feedback to the contacts on the screen and follow us on digital media platforms. From me, Hannah Viviers, and the rest of the Africa Live team, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next time.